Most people believe silence is passive. Stoicism teaches something far more unsettling. Silence, when chosen deliberately, is an active force. When you withdraw emotionally, you are not disappearing. You are removing access. And for many people, that hurts more than any argument ever could. Why? Because arguments still give them something. Your words, your energy, your attention. Silence gives them nothing. Emotional distance is not punishment. It is detachment. And detachment terrifies people who rely on reactions to feel powerful. Stoics understood this deeply. They knew that some individuals do not seek understanding. They seek impact. They want to know that they can disturb your inner balance. When you argue, they feel important. When you explain, they feel relevant. But when you become emotionally distant, something uncomfortable happens. They feel invisible. And invisibility is unbearable to those who live on emotional control. This is why silence hurts them more than confrontation. Not because silence is cruel, but because it refuses to participate. Stoicism does not teach you to suppress emotions. It teaches you to choose where emotions are invested. Emotional distance is not coldness. It is clarity. It is the realization that not everyone deserves access to your inner world. In this video, you are not going to learn how to ignore people out of bitterness. You are going to learn the Stoic perspective on silence, why it works, when it should be used, and how emotional distance quietly reclaims your power. Stay until the end. To understand why silence hurts some people more than words, you must first understand how emotional power works. Most people believe power comes from dominance, from speaking louder, from winning arguments. Stoicism teaches the opposite. Real power comes from control over engagement. When someone tries to provoke you, they are not attacking your logic. They are attacking your emotional availability. They want proof that they matter in your inner world. Words give them that proof. Reactions give them that proof. Defensiveness gives them that proof. Silence removes it. The Stoic difference between silence and withdrawal. Stoic silence is not avoidance. It is not fear. It is not emotional shutdown. It is selective participation. A Stoic does not go silent because he is hurt. He goes silent because he has decided. This distinction changes everything. When silence comes from pain, it leaks weakness. When silence comes from clarity, it projects authority. People feel this immediately. They sense that you are not withholding words to manipulate them. You are withholding words because there is nothing to discuss. That realization unsettles them. Why emotional distance creates discomfort. Emotional distance removes feedback. Most people regulate their behavior through emotional feedback from others. Approval, anger, disappointment, engagement. When you remove feedback, they lose orientation. They do not know where they stand with you, and uncertainty makes people anxious. Stoics understood this centuries ago. They knew that people who rely on reactions feel exposed when reactions disappear. This is why emotional distance feels like rejection, even when no rejection was spoken. The Stoic view of attention as currency. Stoicism treats attention as a limited resource. Where attention goes, power flows. Most people spend attention impulsively. Stoics spend it deliberately. When you argue, you pay attention. When you explain, you pay attention. When you disengage calmly, you stop paying. And anything that no longer receives attention loses influence. This is not cruelty. This is economy. Stoics believed wasting emotional energy was a form of self-disrespect. Why silence exposes intentions. Words allow people to hide. Silence removes cover. When you stop reacting, people reveal their motives. Those who wanted understanding respect your distance. Those who wanted control become restless, angry, or dramatic. Stoicism values this outcome. Clarity is more important than harmony. Silence becomes a filter. The Stoic internal shift, critical. At this stage, something changes inside you. You stop feeling responsible for managing other people's emotions. You realize a hard truth. Their discomfort is not your duty. This realization is freedom. You are no longer pulled into explanations. You are no longer dragged into emotional labor. You remain present without being accessible. This balance is rare, and rarity creates power. Stoic rule: to lock in silence is strongest when it follows clarity. If you never stated your boundary, silence confuses. If you stated it calmly, silence enforces. Stoicism always values sequence. First clarity, then distance. Why this makes you untouchable. People can argue with words. They cannot argue with absence. They can provoke speech. They cannot provoke detachment. Once people realize that emotional pressure produces distance, not reaction, they stop applying pressure. This is not dominance. This is inevitability. Stoicism never teaches blind silence. That is where most people misunderstand it. Silence is not powerful by default. It becomes powerful only when used at the right moment and for the right reason. A Stoic does not disappear randomly. He withdraws with intention. When silence is power, the Stoic conditions. Silence is power when three conditions are met. 1. Your position is already clear. You have spoken once, calmly, without emotion. You stated what you accept and what you do not. After that, silence is not confusion. It is enforcement. Without clarity, silence feels passive. With clarity, silence feels final. Stoics always speak once before withdrawing. 2. The other person seeks reaction, not resolution. Some people are not interested in understanding. They are interested in movement. They want to see you react, defend, explain, escalate. Silence removes their reward. A Stoic knows, do not feed what grows stronger when fed. Emotional distance starves manipulation. 3. You are internally calm, not suppressed. This is critical. If silence is driven by anger, it leaks tension. If silence is driven by fear, it leaks insecurity. Stoic silence comes from settled judgment. You are not holding words back. You simply have nothing left to say. People can feel this difference instantly. When silence becomes weakness, important warning. Silence becomes weakness in only one situation, when it is used to avoid self-respect. If you remain silent while allowing repeated disrespect, that is not Stoicism. That is self-abandonment. Stoicism never tolerates ongoing violation. The Stoic sequence is always state the boundary, observe behavior, withdraw access if needed. Skipping step 1 turns silence into submission. Stoics do not submit quietly. They disengage deliberately. The Stoic art of emotional distance. Emotional distance is not emotional absence. You still care. You still feel. You simply refuse to hand your emotions to unworthy situations. Stoics believed emotions are teachers, not rulers. You listen to them. Then you decide. Distance gives you space to choose reason over impulse. Why distance feels cruel to others. People who depend on emotional access experience distance as rejection, not because you rejected them, but because they lost control. Stoicism accepts this discomfort. You are responsible for your conduct, not for others' dependency. This distinction is mature strength. The Stoic test, use this internally. Before choosing silence, ask yourself, am I silent to protect peace or to avoid discomfort? If it protects peace, it is Stoic. If it avoids discomfort, it needs correction. Stoicism demands honesty above appearance. What happens over time when you use silence correctly? Fewer people test you. Conversations shorten. Drama reduces. Not because you intimidate, but because you are predictable in restraint. Predictable restraint creates trust and respect. Those who cannot handle distance remove themselves. Stoics accept this without bitterness. Stoic rule to lock in silence is not absence of strength. It is strength without noise. But only when it follows clarity and inner calm. At the highest level of Stoicism, silence is no longer a tactic. It becomes who you are. You stop thinking in terms of, what should I say, or how should I respond? You begin to live from a different center. I decide what deserves access to me. This is the final Stoic shift. The Stoic realization that ends all power struggles. Most conflicts survive because both sides are emotionally invested. Stoics remove investment, not out of bitterness, not out of superiority, but out of clarity. You realize that not every person, not every opinion, and not every moment deserves your inner energy. Silence is no longer something you do. It is something that naturally happens when nothing violates your principles. This is why emotional distance feels unbearable to certain people. They are used to pulling reactions. They are used to feeling significant through emotional impact. When that access disappears, they feel irrelevant. Stoicism accepts this outcome without guilt. How silence becomes your reputation. Over time, people learn something about you. They learn that provocation gets nothing. Pressure creates distance. Calm is consistent. You do not argue. You do not explain repeatedly. You do not chase understanding. Your behavior teaches for you. This is why Stoics spoke of reputation as something built quietly, not through dominance, through predictable restraint. Eventually, fewer people test you, not because you are feared, but because resistance feels pointless. The final Stoic mindset: lock this in. You stop seeing silence as loss. You see it as conservation. Conservation of attention. Conservation of emotional energy. Conservation of dignity. You are not cold. You are selective. You are not distant. You are grounded. You are not detached from life. You are detached from chaos. This distinction defines Stoic maturity. The internal Stoic statement: carry this. A Stoic does not repeat explanations internally. He carries one quiet rule: I do not participate in what disturbs my inner order. This rule guides speech, silence, and distance. Once this rule is firm, you no longer need strategies. Your presence itself becomes the boundary. What your life looks like. Now your days are calmer. Your reactions are slower. Your emotions are clearer. You still feel, but you choose when to engage. You still care, but you care without surrendering control. People either adjust to your rhythm or move away from it. Both outcomes are acceptable. Stoicism does not cling. It aligns. Final Stoic. Closing. Silence is not what hurts them. What hurts them is realizing they no longer matter inside your inner world. And according to the Stoics, that realization is not cruelty. It is freedom. You do not owe access. You do not owe reaction. You do not owe explanation. You owe only one thing: to live in accordance with reason and protect the peace that follows. Because once you understand why silence affects people so deeply, you will stop trying to be understood by those who never intended to understand you.